Hello and welcome to Real Estate Today. My name is Ed Cox and our co-host is Maria Babicki, and we'd like to welcome you to our show. We've got a great show for you planned for today. We have someone who's returning from a previous show earlier in our career here, and I think we're going to talk about some really practical things that can be done around your house to enhance its longevity and make sure that you pay attention to things that could cause big problems for you in the future. So with that in mind, I'd like to ask Maria to introduce our special guest and get the show started. Thank you.
It's our great pleasure to have Paul McCartney back on the show. Paul is with Armorseal. He's the president of Armorseal. And the last time you were here, it was 2014, and our show was about preparing for winter.
That's correct.
And today's show is Summer's Here. So first, why don't we begin by having you tell us about yourself, because some people may have not viewed the other show.
My name's Paul McCartney. I own Armorseal. We do driveway sealing, seamless gutters, gutter cleaning, snow plowing, gutter repairs, power washing. We have a dumpster business, and we do hauling as well.
And you're a long-time, you were a long-time Simsbury resident. Now you live in Canton, so you're very familiar with our town here.
That is correct. The business is still in Simsbury, up on Herman Drive.
Okay. So one of the things you do is driveway sealing and driveway repairs, crack filling. So let's talk about that.
Absolutely.
What do we need to know?
Well, first of all, a driveway is made of sand, stone, and liquid asphalt. And the liquid asphalt is the glue that holds everything together. When your driveway's new, it's very soft, and you want it to harden up a little bit. However, what you're waiting for is the sun to burn out some of that liquid asphalt. You want to contain most of the liquid asphalt within the driveway because you want your driveway to be somewhat flexible, because it will heave a little bit in the winter months, and you want to know there's enough oil in there that when it comes up and comes back down again, that the driveway doesn't have cracks. Another thing is putting sealer over a driveway will lock in the oils.
Now, I know you said when you first get a driveway put in, it's soft. And I have heard that from experience from people who have put in driveways, and then they've turned the wheels of their car on top of a new driveway, and I guess it leaves some marks.
They're called power steering burns.
Okay.
And that's pretty normal. Actually, in a twisted way, it's a good thing to get them, because that means there's still a lot of oil in your driveway, and that means your driveway is typically in some pretty good condition when that happens. However, as your driveway starts cracking, it's a good idea to fill the cracks. And they say one of the best crack fillers is the hot crack filler, but unfortunately the homeowners don't like the hot crack filler. When we were pushing hot crack filling on residential driveways, we were running roughly an 85% unhappy customer ratio because of the stickiness to the crack filler. It looks ugly. So what I find that the average homeowner really likes is something that blends in with the driveway nicely, and the cold crack fillers tend to work better. I would tell any homeowner that the best thing they could do on cracking is to hammer in little pieces of what the driveway is made of, which is asphalt. And you can get them around town. Wherever you see a paving job going on a road, usually they empty their dump trucks. They clean out their dump trucks somewhere along that strip where they're repaving. You'll see a little turnoff on the edge of the road, maybe a dirt patch, and you'll see chunks of asphalt. And if you drive by and pick up those chunks of asphalt, take a small sledgehammer. It's time-consuming and tedious, but you can bang in little pieces of asphalt into the cracks, and it's an amazing job you can do. We charge $20-some a foot to do that. You can get your kids out there, and they can save you a lot of money.
Right. Well, we just had you fix a crack in a house that we had just sold. And you had also talked about one of the things in preparing your house for sale is one of the nice things that you can do to a house is preparing for sale is to seal the driveway.
When you're looking at a house that's up for sale, if you're a potential buyer, when you come in, you want to see a nice green lawn, nicely painted house, a nice exterior, driveway looking nice and black. That looks beautiful, and that draws the people in. If somebody comes up to a house and the lawn's all dead and the driveway's all dilapidated looking, they may say, you know what, let's not go in that house. Let's move on to the next one. There's plenty out there for sale.
Yeah, I think they think of it as that if they had to replace the driveway, it would be very, very expensive. So,
yeah.
So making it look nicer.
Now, one thing I recommend is if your driveway is in terrible shape and you have no intentions of replacing it before you sell your house, do the lipstick on a pig routine. Put a heavy coating of a very, very sandy driveway sealer on your driveway, and basically it'll look beautiful. And until somebody gets up close and scrutinizes, they're not going to see a problem. Obviously, you're not going to fool the inspector, though I have put several coatings on some driveways, and it's never even been brought up by the inspector, the home inspector. But I kind of think the home inspector was being negligent when that happened.
And when is the best time to seal your driveway?
It's always good to do it April through August or so. That's the best time because you got the hottest of the weather. And just like any material that you want to bond to the surface, driveway sealer, if it dries quickly, it bonds to the surface. That helps. It makes it last longer. Also, if you wait till September and October, your potential of having the product peel is far greater.
So right now would be a good time.
Absolutely.
You also mentioned tree roots, like how that impacts cracks.
Yes, I can tell you, if you have tree roots picking up your driveway, when those trees get rocking in the wind, those roots will lift up your driveway. So if some people call us and they want patchwork done there, can you patch this area? And sometimes you're just better off to put the sealer over in a case like that, because the only way to fix the tree root problem is to actually dig down, remove the root, and then patch. And oftentimes the expense of that is way higher than what it's worth.
And how often are you sealing? Like if a customer calls you and they have, it's a pretty good driveway and it has started to need sealing, how long will that last? Is it required every year, every other year?
I like to see customers seal their driveways daily. That helps get my kids through dance lessons and things like that. But unfortunately, people don't spend that kind of money. So 2 to 4 years is about how often they do this.
Okay. All right. So why don't we go on to gutters?
Right.
Yeah. You do a lot with gutters. You install them, you clean, you repair, you have covers.
That's correct.
So where shall we start?
Well, maybe gutter covers is the first thing. Early in my career, I was in college and we were cleaning gutters for people. And I thought, these people are all fools. They hire me every single year to clean their gutters. If they just put screens in once, they would never need me again. So one year in the fall, I started selling gutter covers. And I made a killing. I made good money selling gutter covers, using that as my sales pitch. Well, guess what happened? In the springtime, the phone started ringing. Hey, you cleaned my gutters last fall. All those little tiny particle type things fell off the trees. The helicopters, the seed pods, and pine needles. And the pine needles will torpedo through almost every product out there. So anyway, I found myself going out and doing a whole lot of free gutter cleaning for people. As a matter of fact, one guy held me to my word for probably 5 to 10 years. And I thought my great-grandchildren will still be going out doing free gutter cleanings for him. I'll never forget how happy I was when I came down from the ladder. He was sitting on his front lawn on a lawn chair, and he looked up at me and said, "Okay, kid, you're off the hook." And that was good to know. But I never, after that, pushed gutter covers. And whenever I sell them to somebody, I tell them that every product has potential of clogging. People will try to sell you a gutter cover, and they'll show you how it'll take every bit of water that they can give it. But of course, they're running the water straight in at a 90-degree angle when they're doing their demonstration. What they're not telling you is water hits a gutter cover at different angles depending on the velocity of the rain and the angle of the roof and how far the gutter is below the roof line. So as far as gutter covers go, understand if you're going to put them in, you're going to have maintenance. I don't have a great love for the hooded type products because you cannot get your fingers in to clean them.
Right.
And I tell people that if the gutter cover is super fine screen-wise, they make one of the latest products that's out there is a surgical stainless steel gutter cover, very, very fine meshed. And the people get upset when they have them up there because the water tends to bounce off of them under certain rain conditions and miss the gutter completely. So yeah, it keeps a lot of the bad stuff out, but it keeps most of the good stuff out too. So depends on the circumstances.
Do you find you get a lot of people who maybe are sick of gutters and they don't care about the water diversion, they just want to remove them?
We've had people call us to remove gutter covers completely. Gutters completely. As a matter of fact, I had a case years ago where a guy said, you know what, I get ice dams from these gutters. I want the gutters off my house because they cause ice dams. This is what he told me. And at the time, I believed that there may have been some truth to that. At least at the time, I believed that. We took the gutters off his house every year in the fall, and we put them back up in the spring. And for about 3 or 4 years, he had no problems whatsoever. And then the ice dams came back with a vengeance. But what had occurred to me was during those 3 or 4 years, nobody was calling me for ice dam cleanups or removals. So obviously, he just happened to pick the 3 years in a row where there were no problems with ice dams. But when he had no gutter on his house, he had the same severity of ice dams.
What do you think about electric coils on a roof to prevent?
They could be a real nuisance when it comes to clogging gutters because it's more stuff for the debris to get stuck in. And Kevin Kowalski, the fire marshal, at one point told me that he doesn't like heating cables because of he said we had too many roof fires as a result. I personally like the heating cables. And I think that if you get heating cables, you should just make sure you inspect them. Obviously, if you just put them up there and 10 years later they're still there, baking in the sun every summer, they may have cracks in them. That's the time to replace them, not after the fire.
Okay.
And, when you do gutter installs, how many different colors can you get gutters in these days?
Oh, there's a huge number of colors. We have somewhere between 25 and 30 colors, but most companies only carry about 12, maybe 15 colors. And quite frankly, that's enough, right. 12 to 15. It's very rare that people get into the real odd colors. Another thing a lot of people don't know is aluminum is one of the most paintable things you can paint on a house. So if your gutter is not the right color, if you clean the gutter up properly, if it's a white gutter, you want to try to wipe the gloss paint off because the white gutters have a wax content to the paint. But if you wipe down the gutter nicely, almost any paint or stain will stick to the gutter and will last a long, long time. So if you want an odd color, it's nice to buy it already painted from the factory, but you can compensate.
Yeah, when we had you install our gutters, we got a dark green, and a year later we started contemplating painting our house, and we were going, I don't know if I should have bought green at the time, but we actually haven't painted them. Haven't painted them, but
70% of all gutters are white, and there's a reason for that. White matches almost anything.
Right.
What about seamless gutters? What's the benefit?
Well, a lot of people have seams in their gutters, and the reason you have a seam in the gutter is because somebody couldn't make a length that long. And it's always better to have a gutter as one piece. So if you have a 50 or a 60 foot long piece of gutter, it's best to have it as one piece. Don't let anybody talk you into what they call expansion joints, because they clog and leak up and cause problems. But no, if you have a gutter with seams in it, you'll have a hard time keeping it leak free. And the reason is aluminum, though it doesn't rust, it oxidizes. Very similar to rust. It's a coating on the outside of the aluminum. No matter how much you clean it, it always looks like it may look totally clean, but the sealer products won't stick for as long as you'd like them to. I've seen repairs last anywhere from a month to sometimes several years. But no matter who does it, it's not their fault. It's just a matter of, we have acid rain in New England. Gutters do tend to oxidize a lot more from the acid rain.
Okay. Then something I personally just used you for within the past month or so is power washing and the roof cleaning.
Yep.
And the home is sparkling. I can't believe it. What
Thank
a difference.
you very much. We love to be used.
So what are you removing?
We're basically removing moss, mold, mildew, and algae from the home. Mm-hmm. And if you can stop the growth completely, you're not going to stop it forever, but if you stop it completely, basically by using the chemicals, and it's sodium hypochlorite, which is basically swimming pool shock or chlorine, and you're killing off the microorganisms that are growing on the surface of the house. Then they have to start all over again. And that's why people call us every 2 to 4 years on that kind of stuff. Depends on if you're in a pine forest or in a very shaded area, lots of trees over top, you're going to get more moss, mold, mildew, and algae than most. On a roof, this can be a bigger problem, because some of the algae will actually root into the shingles and cause damage. So if it's at all possible, you want to wipe out any algae that hits the roof especially. One way you can do it is you can put a copper strip on the top of the roof. There are contractors that do that. We've done it for people if they've ordered up the copper strip and we put it up for them. But basically, if you have a copper strip up near the very top, and some people use zinc, but copper works better, you'll be leaving copper ions on the roof every time it rains. And that is not conducive to the growth of moss, mold, mildew, and algae.
Okay.
Well, that's good to know, because I grow a pretty mean crop of mold, moss, mildew, and algae on the roof of mine, because I'm in the pine forest, trees all over me, and sometimes it's weeks before it dries up there. So
with a crop like that, it's too bad you couldn't sell that product that you're growing.
yeah, because
since you are a farmer by trade now.
Right. So when you do it up on the roof, do you spray the same stuff you use on the walls of the house?
Well, we also use a product that's designed for cleaning roofs, and so we'll use the sodium hypochlorite, which is basically a salt. It, like I said, like bleach. Mm-hmm. It's just a more powerful bleach, and you have to be very careful of the plant life as well. So basically, if you're going to power wash your own home, I'll give you a few secrets so that you don't wipe out your plant life. It's a little hard to explain to the wife. House is clean, there's no plant life around here.
I was very concerned about this, by the way. My plants all survived.
Yeah.
Fine, no problem.
Well, yours are all plastic, so I'm kidding. Anyway, you dampen down the leaves on all the plant life before you spray the chemical. When you're done, you dampen the leaves down again. Or you should do it fairly, if you're a homeowner and you're doing it fairly slowly, you might want to dampen the leaves a little bit more often. Just keep them nice and damp, and basically you want to rinse off anything that, in the way of chemicals, that might have ended up on your plants.
Does cleaning the roof affect the lifespan of it?
It can. It depends on how severe you let things get. But first of all, the moss and mold and mildew and algae growing on the roof can actually pull off the granules from the roof. Those granules are what protects the tar on the roof from the sun. So, when you clean the roof, you will knock off some granules. But when the roots from the moss, mold, mildew, and algae get into the underside of the granules, they'll pop the granules too. So it's the lesser of the evils in most cases.
Okay.
All right. Now dumpsters are something, it's rather new to your business, right?
No, we've been doing them since the early 90s.
Is that right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what do you remove? Like, how about like household items, or, you know?
Most customers call us, they want to remove household items. They're cleaning out the garage, the attic, the basement. Maybe somebody's trying to clear out a house because they're moving or somebody died. And basically we bring the dumpster out. Our dumpster is a rather shorter dumpster. It's tall, but it's not as long. Ours is 9 feet long. And our customers seem to like that a lot because it doesn't take up a huge space on the driveway.
Right.
It's also easy to get it into tight areas. So instead of having this big, long 18-foot dumpster and the guy coming out and saying, it has to go here, this is the only place we can put it, our unit, we can move it into some tight areas. And the taller ones also work on compaction, because as people pile stuff up,
right,
basically the heavier stuff up top pushes down on everything below, and you tend to get more into a dumpster.
Now, how about like TVs, washing machines, refrigerators? What goes on? Is there an extra charge for that?
Okay, any of your basic appliances, as a rule, there's no extra charge. However, anything that has Freon in it, refrigerator, freezer, dehumidifier, air conditioner, you will pay an upcharge for. So what I tell people, and here's a way to avoid having to pay me extra money, when it comes to refrigerators and freezers and dehumidifiers and air conditioners, if the thing's working, give it away to somebody on Craigslist. Somebody, or advertise it on Facebook to your friends or whatever. You might as well give it away to somebody that can use it, and now you're not paying $15 to get rid of it, or whatever the charge is, depending on the item. Old tires, once again, you know, you might do better getting rid of them at a tire store. When you buy your new tires, just tell them, take the old ones away. It's a real good idea to do that.
Yeah, I think the most expensive thing when I went to the recycling center here in Simsbury, I brought a bunch of stuff in, and I had this ancient old dehumidifier, and I had to pay extra, and I think it was more than that to get rid of it over there, because it's got the junk in it that I'm not supposed to have. So
I'm being sarcastic, but you might have called the Antiques Roadshow and seen if you could have made $1 million with that old
yeah, this one was
fire.
This one had the old plug of it. It was quite old. So can you, I'm thinking of a dumpster in my basement. As I go downstairs, I might have 20 cans of paint. Can you, you know, like what stuff do you not want in there? Is there...
we can get rid of paint for you, but now you can take your paint to the paint stores,
right,
and they'll take it away for you.
Right.
By the way, you mentioned something about a dehumidifier, and here's something that I had always had dehumidifiers in my basement.
Right.
And one of the things that's kind of frustrating is you walk downstairs, you don't hear it running because it's full. I stumbled on this, and I didn't realize they exist, but I was at one of the large stores one day buying a dehumidifier, and I noticed one of them had a pump in it, and it actually pumps the water. It gets to a certain level, and it will pump it up to a drain somewhere or wherever you want to get rid of it. So for all of, I want to say $30 or $40 extra, you could get a dehumidifier that will run continuously. Right. You don't have to service it.
Yeah.
That's good to know. As we conclude our show, what parting advice would you give our audience as far as your business expertise and, you know, knowing that this is the summer season?
First thing is buy a condo. Let somebody else do all the work. You don't have to hire me then. Okay? But basically, if you're going to seal a driveway, get it done in the heat of the summer if you can. It just bonds better. It has the whole summer to bond to your driveway. Fill the cracks now. Though they will widen up as you get into the winter months, it's still just nice to cut down on the amount of sealer that goes into the, or water that gets into the cracks. By the way, one thing I did not mention, people hire us for crack filling all the time. And one thing I tell people is, why hire me? You could go out there and do that yourself. You can buy tubs of trowel patch. It's like using a black spackle. You smear it over the crack. If it splits open, smear another layer over, maybe even a third layer. And usually they stay closed for a long time and it looks nice. It's a nice looking repair. So save the money. You don't need to hire a professional to fill the cracks. You could do that yourself.
Okay.
One thing that you were talking about is you had some tips about bears.
Oh, yeah. The bears are getting into people's trash cans. And one of the things that I would do is I would put a cap full of ammonia over your trash. When you put the trash in a can, one cap full of ammonia. Bears hate the smell of ammonia. Another thing you can do is grease up your neighbor's trash can with basically pig fat. And that will draw the bear to your neighbor's trash can instead of your own. That's another good idea. By the way, there's a reason there's so many bears in Connecticut.
Yeah.
In the turn of the century, there were no trees in Connecticut. It was all farmland. I'm talking the year 1900.
Right.
And anytime a farmer saw a bear, he could look out in his field. He could see for miles in any direction. And he would tend to pick off the bears. And one, it's a nuisance because it'll eat his livestock. And secondly, it's a good meal for a farmer. So basically, they would pick off the bears. Now the trees are back. And that bear goes into your backyard. He goes into the woods. 30 feet into the woods, you can't see him anymore. Used to be, he could go 5 miles and still people could see him. So.
Well, those are interesting facts to know. Thank you for sharing that.
One last thing. As far as gutters go, in the summer, people think you don't have to clean gutters, but actually all that fallout from the spring will clog gutters, and you don't want to have a puddle of water in your gutters. That's a mosquito habitat, and also all that dampness under your roof will make the plywood rot from the bottom of your roof. So get your gutters cleaned in the summer as well. Sometime in June is usually recommended, and sometime in November.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for coming back on our show. We appreciate it. Great advice, as always.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you, everyone, for watching the show today, and we'll see you next time.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.